Hi class, it's Kevin teacher. I will help you try to review some of the questions that we answered together in class. This is your first DSD chess book, page is 81. Let's check your answers together. Page 81. Read and match. One word will not be used. A long seat for two or more people. It is bench. Good. To dislike very strongly. The answer is hate. The study of past events. The answer is history. Good job. Read and choose the correct word. An area of knowledge studied in school. It is history. Demanding that people obey rules. Strict. To move fast enough to join someone. Catch up. An outdoor area where children can play. It's a playground. Do you like to play at the playground? To lift something to a higher position. It is raise, right? Raise something to move it to a higher position. Let's go to the next page. Page 82. Read the story and the correct picture is the second one. Read the story and the correct answer is the third one. Please make sure you check that. Fill in the blanks with the correct words. We have explained, caught up, duty, and raised. David raised his pencil, and Mrs. Cooper called on him. As long as he held his pencil, everyone knew he was there. Number 2, all went well until after lunch. Mr. Cruz was on playground duty because he, takes care of the playground, right? Number 3, no pencils on the playground, Mr. Cruz said. David tried to explain, but Mr. Cruz was strict, right? Yes. Number 4, John, which one's correct? Caught up, right? John caught up with David, and they sat down on the bench together. It cheered David up to have John with him. Okay, make sure to check the answers, guys. Page 84. Let's look at it. Read and choose the correct answer. Number 1, David knew the answers to all Mrs. Cooper's questions, right? Number 2, I don't care how invisible you are, Mr. Cruz said. Either give me the pencil or sit out. Check true or false. Mrs. Cooper did not call on David because she couldn't see his hand raised. Is that true or false? Of course that's true, right? Number 2, David held his pencil in history class, but nobody knew he was there. Nobody knew he was there? Answer is false. Why? Everybody knew he was there. They just couldn't see him, right? Number 3, David loved being invisible so much. He loved being invisible? I don't think so. Answer is false. Number 4, it cheered David up to have John with him. Answer is true. Next page. Number 1, what is David's favorite subject? It is history. My favorite subject is English, but David's favorite subject is history. Number 2, how did David feel when he wasn't called on? He felt ignored and crabby, right? Yes, because nobody can see him. Can you imagine being invisible and nobody sees you? How would you feel? Very lonely, right? Yeah. Number 3, what did David do to be called on? He raised his, he didn't raise his foot. Foot is your leg. He raised his pencil. Good. Number 4, what was Mr. Cruz's rule on the playground? Answer is it no friends on the playground, no water on the playground, or no pencils on the playground? The answer is no pencils on the playground. Good job. Let's check the next page's answer together. Page 87. Read and match. One word will not be used. To dress yourself in clothing means to put on, because you want to put on your clothes, right? Number 2, to have an opinion about something. Opinion means 의견 in Korean. So you have to think to be able to do that. Answer is think. Number 3 is to remove clothing. So basically you take off your clothing. Answer is take off. Read and choose the correct word. Number 1, the usual or expected state. State means condition. So basically it means something really, really normal, right? Answer is normal. Number 2, to quickly take and hold something. You want to hold something really quickly. Answer is grab. Number 3, to say something very loudly. You're talking really loudly, you're going to shout. Answer is C, shout. Number 4, the state of being invisible. You can't see anything. The state is the condition. It's the condition here and here. It's the same. We know the answer is invisibility. Number 5, to have the intended effect or result. So intended means 의도했던 대로. So to have an intended effect. Effect is 효과. So basically it means work. Everything works. The answer is letter B. Let's check the answers. Let's go to the next page. Page 88. Alright, choosing the correct picture, read the story. Please pause the video and read the story. And correct answer is the first picture. Read the story. The correct answer is the first picture again. Go to the next page. Fill in the blanks with the correct words. We have wondered, try, work, thought. After a minute, John said, "Hey, try this. Try this." He took off his batter's baseball cap and put it on David. Number 2. That won't, it's not going to have any effect. No effect. Answer is, that won't work. My clothes disappear with me, said David. Number 3. When the school bell rang at 2:30 p.m., David, he thought he should give the cap back to John, right? He thought about it. And then finally, David waved goodbye. He wondered why John wasn't waving back. Page 90, comprehension check number 4. Okay, look at the picture. Your something clothes disappeared with you. Answer is, your own clothes disappear with you, John said. But this is my hat, try it. Because John gave David his red baseball cap, and David is not sure if the cap is going to go invisible or not, right? Number 2. Hopping down the stairs, David wondered if invisibility was catching, right? Yes. Check true or false. Number 1. John took off his baseball cap and put it on David. Answer is true. Yes, John's a good friend. Number 2. When David put on John's baseball cap, it disappeared. It disappeared? No, it didn't. It didn't disappear. Answer is false. When David woke up the next morning, he was still invisible. He was still invisible? No, everything's visible. He came back normal. So answer is false. Number 4. David raced upstairs and grabbed his Titans baseball cap just in case. He grabbed his Titans baseball cap just in case. That's correct. Remember, David's hat is Titans. John's hat is the red baseball cap, right? Batter's baseball cap. That's that. Number 1. What cheered David up on the playground? To have Mr. Cruz with him? No, he's the strict guy. No. To have John with him cheered him up? Yes. To have Ashley with him cheered him up? No. Answer is the second one. What did David wear for the rest of the day? Answer is right here. He wore his own baseball cap? No, he didn't. That's somebody else's. That's John's. He wore John's baseball cap. No, not Katie's baseball cap. Number 3, why wasn't John waving back at David? He couldn't see him, right? So he could not see David is the correct answer. What could David see when he woke up the next morning? He could see himself. Finally came back. Normal answer is he could see his teacher's desk. No. He could see his mom's face. No. He could see his fingers. Yes. Answer is the first one. Okay, story review, page 92. Let's go. Who knew the answers to all Mrs. Cooper's questions? Yeah, very smart guy, David. How did David feel when he wasn't called on? Ignored and crabby. So answer is C, right? Who was on the playground duty? Mrs. Cooper, Mr. Cruz, John, Mom? Mr. Cruz. What did David put in his backpack for John? David put in John's backpack, right? Sorry, I'll say that again. What did David put in his backpack for John? So, before he left house, he put something in his backpack so he can give it to John. Again, David put something in his backpack so he can give it to John. What is this? Answer is his batter's baseball cap. Remember this, very important. How long did David wear John's baseball cap at school? He worried for an hour. He worried for 3 days. He worried for the rest of the day. He worried for the rest of the week. Answer is rest of the day. So what happened when David woke up the next morning? He couldn't see his fingers? No. He couldn't see himself? No. He could see himself? Yes. Answer is letter C. Now, let's try to write the correct sentence. Before we move on, let's review our pronouns. Mrs. Cooper, we can also use a pronoun. She is the pronoun for Mrs. Cooper. Everyone, we can use they. David and John, he's a boy, so we can use he, right? So, why didn't Mrs. Cooper call on David in history class? She didn't call on David in history class because she didn't call on him because she couldn't see his hand raised. Check your answer. Number 2, how did everyone know that David was there in class? Everyone knew David was there in class because he held his pencil. He raised his pencil. They knew that David was there because he held his pencil. Number 3, why did David think wearing John's baseball cap wouldn't work? He thought it wouldn't work because his clothes had disappeared with him, right? Okay. Why didn't John take his baseball cap back from David? He didn't take it back because David needed it more than him. Remember how we're using pronoun and then we're using the verbs after that. Number 5, what did David wonder about invisibility? He really wondered if the invisibility was catching. So he wondered if invisibility was catching, right? So please pause the video, make sure you have the right answer. Okay, page 94 story maps answer I'm not going to give you because this answer is actually right here. So I'm not going to go through that. It's really, really easy. So I can just skip that. Make sure you have the correct answer, by the way. Page 98, you have your story map. What was the title of the storybook? Yep, The Day David Wasn't There. Where was the setting? David's house, school bus, classroom, playground. You can write it all. Well, now, please pick a character and talk about the character. Maybe you can choose John or you can choose anybody else you want from the storybook. And what I think about the character, I think John is really kind because he tried to help David by giving him or letting him use his baseball cap for the rest of the day because he thought that David needed it more than him. So you can choose one character and write what you want to write about the reason. Let's finish this together. We have odd, cheered, invisible, normal, hated, and catching. Let's look at before. One morning, David woke up to find himself invisible. This is odd, he thought. He hated being invisible. He didn't really like it. After everything, David's friend John cheered him up. The next morning, David was back to normal. He wondered if invisibility was catching. So remember all these words and make sure that you have the right answer. I was trying to help you understand these questions, so please review. If teacher is talking really fast, you can always pause the video and review this. And when you have a question, you can always contact me because you know my phone number, right? Bye. See you in class.